suggesting she deliberately crosses and uncrosses her legs to distract Boris Johnson of the House of Commons. An unnamed Conservative MP accused Angela Rayner of a ploy to put the Prime Minister off his stride. And from incompetence in government to indecency, the deputy leader of the British opposition party has been smeared in a nasty, sexist, anonymous newspaper briefing.
Did Labour just throw away their chance at solving the housing crisis? In a jaw-dropping interview, Piers Morgan exposed the cracks in Angela Rayner's promises,
evoking the famous scene involving Sharon Stone in the movie Basic Instinct. The MP told the Mail on Sunday she knows she can't compete with Boris's Oxford Union debating, training, but
leaving viewers stunned. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
She has other skills which she lacks. For God's sake, well, first of all, you don't need to flash a pair of hot legs to get one over Boris Johnson in Parliament.
From unrealistic building targets to contradictory statements about housing availability, watch as Labour's credibility crumbles under intense scrutiny. You won't believe what happens when an audience member speaks out. Labour's grand promise to build 1.5 million new homes has hit a wall of skepticism. As Angela Rayner faced Piers Morgan's relentless questioning, the cracks in Labour's housing strategy began to show. Local councils, the very bodies tasked with implementing these ambitious plans, have pushed back hard. They're calling Labour's targets what many have long suspected, utterly unrealistic. The gap between Labour's lofty rhetoric and the harsh realities on the ground is widening by the day. While Rayner talks about solving the housing crisis, families across the UK are struggling to find affordable homes. The numbers paint a grim picture. Current construction rates are nowhere near what's needed to meet Labour's targets. Experts are shaking their heads, pointing out that the infrastructure and planning challenges make these goals a pipe dream at best. As Morgan pressed Rayner for answers, the tension in the studio was palpable. How could she possibly defend these seemingly impossible goals? The audience leaned in, waiting for a coherent explanation. But what they got was a stumbling, contradictory performance that left many viewers cold. In a moment that had jaws dropping, Rayner claimed there was no shortage of housing. A statement that flies in the face of Labour's own pledge to build new homes. It's this kind of disconnect that's fueling public frustration. People are asking, if there's no shortage, why are so many living in temporary accommodations? Why are homelessness rates on the rise? Rayner's struggle to provide clear, consistent answers under pressure was painful to watch. As she fumbled for explanations, the credibility of Labour's entire housing strategy seemed to crumble before our eyes. It's a far cry from the confident promises that had given hope to so many. The implications of Labour's shaky housing strategy are far-reaching. Public trust, already fragile, is eroding fast. Years of unfulfilled promises have left a bitter taste in voters' mouths. The question now is, can Labour recover from this blow to their credibility? Or have they just handed their opponents a golden opportunity to question their competence on one of the most pressing issues facing the nation? Just when you thought the housing debate couldn't get more heated, Piers Morgan unleashed a statistic that left Angela Rayner visibly shaken. How many new homes might actually go to migrants? The answer sparked an uproar that threatens to reshape the entire political landscape. The UK's housing crisis has been a festering wound for years. Homeless shelters are bursting at the seams, and countless families are stuck in temporary accommodations. It's a dire situation that Labour promised to fix. But Morgan's revelation threw their entire strategy into question. In a moment of high drama, Morgan dropped a bombshell. Out of every 7 new homes built, 5 could potentially be allocated to migrants. The studio fell silent as the implications sank in. Rayner's face said it all. This was not part of the script. Public reaction was swift and fierce. Social media exploded with outrage. Many felt betrayed, arguing that Labour's immigration policy had only worsened the housing shortage. Critics pointed out the apparent prioritization of migrants over citizens who've been on housing waiting lists for years. The controversy highlights a growing divide in British society. On one side, there's sympathy for those fleeing conflict and seeking a better life. On the other, there's frustration from native Britons who feel overlooked and left behind. It's a powder keg of emotions, and Morgan's statistic was the match that lit the fuse. As the debate raged on, an audience member couldn't contain their anger any longer. They leapt to their feet, voice trembling with emotion, embodying the frustration of millions. "What about us?" they demanded. "What about the people who've lived here all their lives and can't get a home?" It was a moment that encapsulated the entire controversy. The raw emotion, the sense of betrayal, the feeling that politicians have lost touch with the people they're meant to serve. Rayner struggled to respond, her words drowned out by the audience's murmurs of agreement. The implications for Labour are potentially devastating. Their credibility on housing, already shaky, now lies in tatters. How can they claim to be the party of the working class when their policies seem to prioritize newcomers over long-term residents? It's a question that could haunt them well into the next election. As the dust settles, one thing is clear. The migrant housing controversy has exposed deep-seated tensions in British society. It's forced a conversation about immigration, resources, and what it means to be British in the 21st century. For Labour, it's a political nightmare. For the country, it's a challenge that will shape policy debates for years to come. The erosion of trust in Labour's housing strategy is a seismic shift in British politics. What started as ambitious promises has crumbled under the weight of scrutiny, leaving voters disillusioned and angry. The revelation that a significant portion of new homes could go to migrants has only added fuel to the fire, exposing deep-seated tensions in society. This controversy doesn't just impact Labour, it strikes at the heart of British political discourse. The gap between political rhetoric and reality has never seemed wider. As one housing expert pointedly asked, if there truly is enough housing, then why make such grand promises that seem like mere rhetoric? This disconnect threatens to further alienate an already cynical electorate. The implications for UK social cohesion are equally concerning. The housing crisis has exposed fault lines between different communities, potentially exacerbating existing divisions. Without a balanced approach that addresses both native and migrant needs, these tensions could boil over into wider social unrest. As we look to the future, one question looms large. Can any political party craft a housing policy that genuinely serves all Britons, regardless of their background? The answer may well determine the course of UK politics for years to come.